Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Hacking Self Storage. It is Wednesday morning when this one comes out, and we're talking about me not having planning and being an absolute plonker for a site in Glasgow. And I want to get into that, and I want to tell you why I'm not as big as plonker as everybody. Well, we'll see. Just keep it up, man. Right, firstly, if you haven't already done so, go to mrselfstorage.com, sign up there. I have a daily newsletter that I send out, and yeah, people seem to like it because we've got like over a 60% open rate. We're over 800 people on that list now. We get over 500 people every single day opening it, which blows my frigging mind. So thank you very much for everybody who subscribed. Not one of mine. Like, it's a real joy in my life doing the news. I really enjoy it. Like after I record this, I am heading down to Costa or Nero's, and I'm going to plan out the rest of the week. Spend a few hours just listing what I'm going to do in the newsletter for the rest of the week. I love it. I have a nice little cheeky coffee. Might even have a croissant. Right. So today, anyway, we are talking about my Glasgow site, and 5 months on, I still don't have planning. I put this post on LinkedIn. When I'm recording this, it was 3 days ago. It's got over 7,000 impressions, 60 odd thumbs up, whatever, and loads of like 20 odd comments. And then not only that, I have had telephone conversations with so many people ringing me up saying, thinking that basically, I'm a bit worried about you signing the lease when you don't have planning. You do know this isn't normal behavior, what you normally do. I'm like, yeah. Sorry, it didn't come out. It didn't actually come out in the post that this is a one-off. This is a one-time gamble, and time was of the essence. So I had to move fast. The good thing with being a small company and me in charge of it, I don't need the board permission. I don't need the investors' permission. I don't need anybody's permission. So I can move fast, really, really fast. I can outmaneuver most people because there's only me. I can make a decision straight away and do it. And this was one of those occasions when normally I would never, ever, in my course, I always say get subject to planning or have an agreement to lease in. We're about to sign a contract with a new site, a lease so it should be finalised this Friday, and we've got an agreement to lease because we don't have planning yet, so we're putting an agreement to lease in depending on that planning decision, which should be granted. But you've always got most of the time, not always, because we didn't do it in Glasgow, most of the time you do need a safety net there just in case you don't get planning for whatever reason. Glasgow was slightly different. So I want to explain why Glasgow was slightly different. So you all don't think Dean signs leases without planning, because I don't recommend it. I do know of companies, a lot of companies in this space do that. And I know of one company in particular right now, and nobody will know him. It's not a big company or anything like that. I've been told that they've been open God knows how many years, and the council have said, no, you can't have planning. And they're saying, wait a second, we should definitely have planning because we've been open for like 12 years. And the council said, well, prove you've been open for 12 years. And he goes, all right, here's an invoice. There's an invoice from 12 years ago. It was from this customer. And so we've been open for 12 years. So we need retrospective planning approval because we've been open so long. And so I know loads of people do it. It's just that I don't want everyone to think that I'm not aware of the downsides, because this was a strategic move on my part. And I'm going to get into that, why I did it in Glasgow. So firstly, I wanted to just I know people were concerned thinking, Dean, you run a multi-million-pound company and you just open without planning? Are you crazy? I'm like, no, it's just a one-off. This is a one-off. Normally I do have planning. And so, yeah, I feel like I need to address the situation, but also tell everybody, hey, I don't have planning at Glasgow at the minute. And here's why. So basically, I don't have planning at the minute in Glasgow because we try to apply for planning, and there's a little bit of discrepancy because sometimes it's worded as we've been denied planning, and other times it's when we talk to the planning, it's they just need more information and they're not going to grant it yet because it's above a tube station, an underground, a subway, and they want to know about the load capacity, etc., and to make sure that it can take it, which of course it should do. But I understand they've got to be safe and sorry. We don't want to collapse the underground and kill people. Otherwise, I'll be in jail. So we do not want that at all. And so at the minute, we don't have planning, and they are very slow to get back to us, painfully slow. And at the minute, we've only got 2 units available. And I'm like, do we do phase two or do we wait for planning? If we do phase two, do we annoy them even more so they're more likely to say no to us? And I'm like, fuck it, let's do phase two. Again, it's a calculated risk. I understand it might not come off, but I can't stand still. I can't stand still knowing that there's going to be people wanting containers in that area and I can't supply them. So I can't stand still there. So yes, very, very, very interesting at the minute. Right. So let's get into it. So we opened 5 months ago and the deal was with me and John McGlynn. I've always said, because I love and respect John McGlynn so much, I've had opportunities to open in Scotland, but the trouble is it's been quite near his stores. So I've always said, John, I will open near you because ultimately he's got deeper pockets than me. The person with deeper pockets wins. I don't want to go into battle with John McGlynn. I don't want to go into battle with Storage Vault. I get on with all of them there. I think they're all brilliant people. So the last thing I want to do is have a battle with any of them lot. Um, and also I never want to compete against my mates either. And I don't think I don't like to. Like Mike McCarthy, he saw Clough Road, didn't know it was opposite my site. As soon as he saw it was opposite my site, he said, no, I'm not interested. And likewise, a site came up in Lincoln that we was perfect for a container site, but it was like zero point 0.6 miles away from Mike's. And I was like, nah, can't. And so I don't want to compete with people I know, like, and stuff. I don't mind competing with people I don't know and don't have a relationship with because we're going to have to compete with somebody. And by the way, self storage, there's loads of room for everybody at the minute, but it will get more and more competitive. Anyway, this site, I saw it probably 2 months ago when it came online. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I know roughly the area because it's opposite Ibrox. And I was like, da, 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 da. Oh, it's in the corner pot. It's brilliant. And I was like, nearby competition. I was like, oh no, there's John McGlynn's. Damn it, can't do it. And I kept it on my screen for some whatever reason. I kept it on my screen. I kept on looking at it, thinking, oh, this would be amazing for self storage. This would be amazing for self storage. And I thought, well, it won't be like I'm cheating on John if I just speak to the agent, will it now? So I rang up the agent and he said, Dean, thank you very much for contacting us. There's very little chance of you getting it. We're going to be at heads of terms today with somebody else for £45,000 a year, the asking price, and it's going to be a long lease. They have got break clauses in. He probably told me too much information. And I explained the situation. He said, oh, right, fair enough. Anyway, it's probably a no-go for me anyway because it's so close to John's site. And he goes, I've known John for 20 years. Dean, it's close in mileage. I think like it's 2 miles away or something like that. And he said, it's close in mileage, but it's nowhere near in reality because you've got to go, there's a big motorway, you've got to go round it, loop, da, 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 da. And he's like, 20 minutes away, mate. You won't affect him, he won't affect you. And that's been the truth, by the way, as well. And it's like the other side of a motorway. So your people won't travel from the other side of a motorway to come to you and vice versa. I'm like, huh. He goes, honestly, speak to John. I bet you don't have a problem with it. I'm like, huh. And he said, anyway, but like I said, we won't give you it for the asking price now anyway because we're so far down with the other place. So you're going to have to beat the asking price and the landlord might even go with it anyway. It's like, right, okay. I mean, great sales tactics, by the way. I fell for it, hook, line, and sinker. I'm like, oh my God, there's somebody else involved. Ah, I need to do this. And I know there was, by the way, because he said, I can't tell you, but if you guess them, I can tell you. And I was like, okay, right. I did a big opera. And he goes, yes, fairly big. And I was like, where does it come from? And he told me where they come from. And I said, right, it's them. And he goes, no. I said, it's them. And he goes, no. I said, it's them. And he goes, no. And I was like, who the hell is it? And I was like, it's them. And he goes, yes. And I'm like, right. And I know they're aggressively opening up sites everywhere. And I was like, well, he wouldn't even know them anyway. And so it must be true. It stacks up. And so I took a view that what he was telling me was the truth. And I've later heard that it actually was the truth as well. So that was good that I wasn't just suckered in because you can easily sucker me in. Just like, no problem. Pretend somebody else is interested. And I'm like, somebody else wants it. I want it. So normally I am a sucker most of the time. Anyway, so I messaged John and said, John, look, there's a site, give him a link to it. And I was like, I'll never compete with you. Blah, 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 over when, I think it was a voice note or something. I went, blah, 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 blah. And John just said, get back to me and said, Dean, if I was your mentor and you were paying me for advice, I would say, do it. I don't have a problem with it at all. I was like, oh man, I was so worried about it. And he said, no, he said, go for it. There has been a few sites where that I knew by his terminology that he didn't really want me to be open in there, but he never said don't open. There was one in particular, I can't remember where it was in Glasgow, but it was a really good site, but it was too close, and we would have semi competed with each other, and I didn't want to do it. He was graceful about it anyway, but I thought, no, it's a bit too close. But this one, I thought, right, he's told me he can do it. I'm going to do it. So what I did was I knew I had to up the offer. So, and I knew I couldn't do subject to planning, agreement to lease, or any of that because I was going to go head to terms with your place. So I had a fine window of opportunity. This was the morning. And so I rang up the agent and said, listen, I'm going to put an offer, not 45, but 50. And break clauses, forget break clauses. I don't need them. I don't need subject to planning. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a bonus of £1,000 in Amazon vouchers if this gets done today, heads of terms. And I will give the landlord £10,000 as a signing on fee, whatever, whatever it is. I will give the landlord £10,000 as well if it gets done today, heads of terms. And he's like, all right, Dean, hold by the phone. I'm going to do what I can do and see if we can do it. It's going to be tight. And also, I said, whatever, but it has to be within 24 hours because I know the other people, I know them, and I know what they're like. They will come back in with an offer over me, and I just want it done. I don't want them a chance to get in at all. So let's get this done today. And if it's not today, then it's not at all because I don't want to compete with anybody. I want to come over them, and that's it. Bang, done. I don't want to go backwards and forwards. I'm out. I am literally out if we don't get done today. And he said, right, I'll speak to the landlord. I'll see what we can do. I'll get my team on standby, see if we can draft up this agreement to lease, speak to solicitors. All right, let's go, 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 go. And that is the story. And that's how I got this site. So it took too long. My initial problem was I should have picked up my phone 2 months ago when I saw it first of all, and I should have spoke to John. Because not knowing the area, I don't know how far 2 miles is. 2 miles in city centres, especially city centres like Glasgow, is a long, long way. And it takes a long time to get across the city. So what you think might be competition isn't really competition. I should have picked up my phone 2 months ago, and then it would have negated all this rush, going in over somebody. I could have done subject to planning. I could have done whatever. I would have had time. I'd have had options. But because I didn't do that, I didn't have time and I didn't have options. So that was my fault. But after that, I did congratulate myself. I did feel pretty good about myself because I thought, you've took action and you've done it. You've got it. But the only problem is you don't have planning. I was like, I missed out something. I did speak to my planning guy, and my planning guy goes, Dean, there's a container site to the left, container site to your right, there's containers there, it's industrial land, da, 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 da. He doesn't know, by the way, Scottish planning. But he said, because he never says this, he said, I think it's dead cert. I think it's a certainty. And I'm like, right, awesome. And he said, you've got no worries there. Famous last words. And we'll probably still get planning. But that, my friends, is why I opened without planning. And I was going to retrospectively ask for planning. And it could be £1 million mistake, but this site will make £200,000 a year comfortably when it's all mature, comfortably. And I've got an option to buy as well. So it's quite steep, is the price, but I've got an option to buy, which the banks, in 3 years, I've got an option to buy. As long as I hit my projections, then the banks will support it, no problem, because some money's there to pay for everything stacks up. It's not co-propco, so it's an operating business out of that property, and that's what the banks like. So, God, I'm getting hot and flustered talking to you about this. So ultimately, 200,000. If we sell for 10 times or 8 times or whatever, then we've got cash flow a year of 200 grand, and 10 times is 2 million. So yes, I'm taking a view. I'm taking a gamble. I'm taking a bet. It could cost me £1 million. But ultimately, when we do sell, this could be allocated for £2 million worth of value. So, and also I've got the money coming in every single year as well. So yes, it's a gamble. I'm backing 2-1 really. It's £1 million gamble. I'm backing £1 million. And by the way, that's worst case because it's right outside Glasgow, the stadium. So we could do car parking, for the stadium. We could do loads of things. So yes. The worst case scenario, which will never happen, is I lose 50 grand a year. I could also sublet, there's loads of things I could do if worst comes to worst. But let's say the worst is I can't do nothing with the land. It's a pig of land and you can't do anything with it. You can't even park on it or nothing. Then I lose 50 grand a year for 20 years. That's £1 million. But the upside of it is a £2 million exit eventually, plus the extra cash flows. So I'm really betting 2-1. And in 2-1, you look at the percentage chances, you turn that into a percentage chance. This is what we do when we was gambling. I used to have a betting shop, and it's what insurances do as well. Insurances aren't much different than betting. Betting is insurance, and I can go into reasons why to explain that. But it's the percentage chance of something happening. You want to over allocate for that, and that's what insurances do. So you might insure your car for £1,000 a year, and they think the chances are X, Y, and Z. This is the percentage. This is what we're getting, and therefore it makes sense insuring the car at that price. The underwriting, and that's exactly what we're doing here. We're underwriting the business, and we're underwriting the potential upside and the potential downside. And so I went into this with my eyes wide open. Was there over a 60, 70% chance somewhere on there of this site not getting planning? And the worst being the worst of our worst? No. And therefore, it's, no, sorry, 30% chance. 2 to 1, yeah. Wrong way around. So yeah, actually, do you know what? I'm going to get it absolutely spot on. I'm going to pause this video and get the mathematics spot. I ain't done mathematics betting maths for a long time. Just 1 second. All right, so I'm back. Yeah, so the implied probability, I had a figure in mind. I was like, is that correct? Is that correct? I didn't say it because I haven't worked on course for ages. It's 2 to 1 is 33%. So is it more than a 33% chance of me getting planning? That's it, because ultimately this site will get to maturity and it will earn the money. It's self-storage. It can't not. It's in a great position. So is there more than a 33% chance of getting planning? Yes. So therefore, it's worth doing. And that's even taking to worst case scenario where I lose 50 grand for 20 years, which I think is almost impossible. But that's worst case scenario. Is it better than a 33% chance? And the answer is yes. I would say the percentage chance of getting planning on here is still in the 90s. And so therefore, I've got an arbitrage of that spread there. If it's 90% against 33%, I've got that arbitrage there of what, 56%? Yeah. So I've got the arbitrage 57%, somewhere around there. I've got the distance between one odds and the other, and that is a value bet. And if you continue doing value bets throughout your life, then you can't lose long term. Long term, it's like mathematics. It's mathematics in gambling. It's exactly the same. If you've got an edge, say you see a horse at even money, so the implied probability of it winning is 50-50. 50% of the time it'll win, 50% of the time it'll lose. That's what the bookmakers are saying, that implied probability is for that horse. However, if you're thinking, well, actually, do you know what? I think it's more like a 2 to 1 shot, and so therefore it's got a 33% chance of winning, then you would lay that horse all day long, because even if it wins, long term, that spread that you've got, the arbitrage, is in your favour. And so that is what we're doing here with this site. And I don't know why I'm doing this with my hat. Cute. I'm going, my new jacket as well. Or Clay calls it a bin bag, but I like it. Anyway, that's for people on the podcast like, what the hell are you on about? Bet yourself. You're doing a podcast. Anyway, so yeah, in a nutshell, I still think it's a really, really good deal. And the upsides far outweigh the downsides. So sorry for the long podcast explaining it. But ultimately, hopefully that because a lot of people are thinking, what an absolute wally this guy is. What do you mean you don't do planning? Why won't you've signed £1 million lease? You absolute wally. And I know if my friends were thinking it, there must be loads of people out there thinking it. And by the way, you wouldn't be wrong calling me a wally most of the time, but on this occasion, I've got the mathematics behind it and the statistics and the probability, the implied probability to back up my decision. So there. Right, I'm off because I need to go and get ready and go for a walk into town to write. So don't forget to subscribe to MrSelfStorage.com. All right, love you, appreciate you. Goodbye from Mathematical Betting Dino. See you soon.